Hey everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. Welcome to my kitchen. We are going to be starting today's video in the kitchen, but we are going to move outside to a project in the greenhouse a little bit later on. First thing that we're gonna do though is get dinner made. I like to get dinner made in the morning. Most days I like to try to get dinner made in the morning, but especially on days that I know are going to be busy, like today. We are going to start with making a split pea soup. This is one of my favorite soups to make, and I realized the other day that I actually have gone this entire winter without making a split pea soup. So I decided today was the day. This is a very easy soup to make. I don't have a specific recipe for it yet. I am working on that, but you'll get the general idea of the basic ingredients and how to put them together in today's video. We already have most of the prep work done for this soup. So we have chopped onions and chopped carrots, along with some chopped potatoes, and we have these sitting in water because they won't be going into the soup until later on this afternoon. What else do we have? We have some soup stock over here that we're going to be using, 4 quarts of soup stock. We have our pot all ready to go. What else? And our peas. This is a super simple soup to put together. I just remembered when I came over to my stove that I also wanted to make a batch of yogurt this morning because I have lots of milk. Now that we have milk cows and milk, we are swimming in it, which is absolutely fabulous. So I pasteurize my milk when I'm making yogurt because we much prefer the flavor and texture of pasteurized yogurt over raw. I used to make it raw all the time, and then I tried it pasteurized once and we just loved it. So I'm gonna use a gallon of milk. So I'm going to turn this element on to around medium heat, or so medium high. And the goal here is to get the temperature up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to hold it at that for 15 seconds, and that will pasteurize our milk. What I'm doing here is killing off any of the bacteria that's already living in this milk. And then I will add the good bacteria for the yogurt that I want back into here. I'll show you the whole process as we go. And then over here, we're going to crank this up to high. We're going to add a good amount of butter in the bottom of that, and then put our onion in to there. This is all I had left for onions. We're actually completely out of onions now. Otherwise, I would have probably added 4 chopped onions. This is just 1 chopped onion because I really like this soup with lots of onion in it. So we're gonna let this caramelize up. When we are pasteurizing our milk, we want to keep a really close eye on it so that we don't scorch it. This is my favorite thermometer. This is actually a candy thermometer, but I love it because it has a clip on the side of it, so I can just put it right into my pot. I like using it for cheese making as well, which we are going to be getting into really soon, and I'm very excited about that. I wanted to show you something so you know how I absolutely love my wooden utensils. It was my birthday the other day, and one of my sons made me this one out of apple wood. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. I used to use my Instant Pot for making my yogurt, and that works really well. It does have a pasteurization setting, and then you let it cool down, and then it actually has, you can just leave it in the Instant Pot the entire process. Now what I do though is I just pasteurize it here on the stove. It's really quick. And then I put it in a sink of cold water, the whole pot, and let it cool down. And then I just make my yogurt right in here. So I'll add my starter. I'll show you what kind of starter I use in just a second. And then put that right into my quart jars and into my dehydrator. I'll show you all this as we go along. So we are, temperature's starting to creep up here. We're at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It's important to keep a really close eye on your milk. Milk actually retains heat extremely well and heats up really quickly. So yeah, we're almost at 140 degrees, and our onions are just about caramelized. Smelling delish. I am so happy with the new milk cows that we got. I did a video about this last week, which I'll put a link up here for you if you want to go and check that out. But the blonde cow, so I was initially going to call her, what was it, Dandelion, which I liked, but as I have gotten to know her a little better, it just didn't really suit her, and it didn't kind of flow when I was talking to her. So this morning when I was out milking her, somebody had suggested honeysuckle. So I called her Honey, and it just fit perfectly. She is the sweetest, most gentle, most easy to milk cow I have ever had. I feel absolutely blessed to have her, and so excited to have all of this milk, and really quite excited about getting into cheese making. Actually, I have shared this before, but I am not a very good cheese maker. I have made cheese before. We're just about up to temperature. I have made cheese quite a few times, but it never turns out very well. And this year I am determined, especially because we have 2 cows in milk right now, so we're going to have a ton of milk, to get good at cheese making. So we have our onions over here. We're going to add our carrots to this, and our peas. And this is 6 cups of peas. And our chicken broth. You can use water and bouillon for this as well if you like. So one thing about making soup with split peas is they're quite heavy, and as they cook they get quite thick and they will sink to the bottom of your pot. So it does require either really low temperature or fairly frequent stirring. So we're going to add a couple of bay leaves to this and a little pinch of thyme. Okay, we are at our 160. So you want to remove this from the heat right away, because like I said, it will keep rising the temperature. Give this a good stir, and then right into a sink of cold water. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cool this milk down to under 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we'll add our starter to it. So into this soup, I'm going to add this big chunk of bacon with a ton of fat on it. And as you noticed, I didn't add any salt to this, and the salt from this bacon will salt the soup and also add amazing flavor. You can also add a ham hock to this if you like. Anything with pork, like ham, chopped up bacon, a ham hock, anything like that would taste good in this. So now what we're going to do is cover this and just let this simmer slightly, giving it a stir every 20 minutes or so until the peas are soft. Okay, now we are going to do a little bit of seed planting. Excuse me. But before we do that, I'll just take you outside and I'll show you quickly how we make these soil blocks. One of the things that I used to do when I would make soil blocks is I used to mix my own soil. And that works great because you get to really control the kind of nutrients that you add to your soil, but I haven't found it to be necessary. It's an extra step that just makes a little bit more work for me. So I just use standard potting soil for making my soil blocks as well. When I am making soil blocks, I want the soil to be wet enough that I can squeeze a little bit of water out, just like that. And that way they'll hold together really well. See if I can bring you down a little closer. So all I do, take my soil blocker and, hello kitty, and I rock it back and forth until it is full. Normally I have a lot more soil in here for doing this, and then I rock it back and forth like this so that it's packed in nice and tight. And then I take my soil blocker into my tray and I push down very firmly. Push on the handle and lift up. As you can see, there's a little divot in there for planting the seed. So then I just take a little bit of soil once I am done planting them and then just sprinkle it over the top. These hold together very well. I top water these and don't have an issue with that. Bottom watering is usually recommended for soil blocks because they can break apart. But in all the years of doing this, I have never had an issue with top watering these. Super economical way of making something to plant your seedlings in rather than these plastic trays. And then the other thing, of course, is we're using way less plastic when we use the soil blocks. I've already labeled all my seed trays, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trays of seedlings today. And we are going to do scarlet kale, Aran kale, lacinato kale, abundance kale, bok choy, and pak choy, and a whole bunch of lettuce. And I am going to be doing my lettuces about every week or so that I can have lettuce all the way throughout the summer. So we're doing a butter crunch lettuce, what one is this one? I think this is albachera lettuce. This one is a new one from High Mowing. We're going to do Tierra cabbage, Dedden cabbage, mammoth red, rock cabbage, and this was sent to me by one of you. I'm excited to try that one. We're also going to do a Duke of Boer kale. What else? Bunch of different lettuces, cauliflower, broccoli. This is a new cauliflower. It's a self-blanching cauliflower. So when you're growing cauliflower, if you don't want it to turn yellow from the sun, what I always do is I'll break the leaves. I'll just kind of snap them right here, not right off, and just fold them over to keep the sun off the head as it's growing. But these ones are actually self-blanching, so I'm excited to try that. We're also going to do some sweet alyssum. And this is a new one. This is Cypress Vine Funny Valentine Blend. So I'm going to grow a bunch of these because we have hummingbirds around here and they apparently love it. I like the name of this spinach. It's called skookum spinach. So we're going to do that one as well. Some arugula. And I think that is about it. I'm a little bit late starting my brassicas this year. Normally I start them probably 2 weeks ago, but we're having such a long, cold spring this year. And as much as brassicas are generally cool season crops, they don't like it when it's super cold. So anything below 7 degrees Celsius, which we could easily get at night well into the end of May. So I decided to just push it back a little bit this year. Plus it has been a crazy busy couple of weeks and I just haven't really had time. So let's start with the Aran kale. That was a hybrid kale, another High Mowing Seeds one. So this one is new. I am only going to do 2 of each variety of kale. Kale is very prolific and it grows well all season, so I don't need to have a ton of it. We do love kale though. 2 of those ones. Scarlet kale is one of my favorite kales to grow, mostly because it's so incredibly beautiful. Duke of Boer kale, pretty much the same as the scarlet kale as far as being a really tight, curly leafed kale, but it's green instead of red. So where did I put my Duke of Boer? I don't even think I put a Duke of Boer one in there. Whoops. There it is. So lacinato kale we also call dinosaur kale. The nice thing about it is it isn't a super curly kale, but it is a thick one and it has nice ridges on it for holding in flavor for kale chips. So we're gonna grow 2 lacinatos. I do find I'm gonna do some choy. So this is bok choy and I have some pak choy as well. I do find that the choys tend to bolt quite easily as soon as it starts getting hot, so I probably should have started these ones a little bit sooner, but I didn't. Butter crunch lettuce, I find, is a really great lettuce because it does not bolt super easily. It still will if it gets really hot, but it does pretty great. I do wish I had started a little bit of lettuce earlier, but oh well. So these trays are actually, potentially anyway, depending on how well the workout in the greenhouse goes, will be going out to the greenhouse rather than down to the grow room today. So that is really exciting. Okay, 1 tray down. So we have about 50 soil blocks per tray, and I like to do 100 broccoli and 100 cauliflower. So this one was Trevi. Let's see, which one is that? And I like to grow, I have a couple of favorite varieties. So for broccoli, it's Everest. And for cauliflower, I really like Amazing and Skywalker. Okay, so we're gonna plant some basil, lots of basil. I grow a ton. I put 1 or 2 basil plants between all of my tomato plants in my high tunnel. So usually try to have at least 50 or so. It grows well with tomatoes. It's kind of a companion planting thing. I'm not big on companion planting. It's something I know a little bit about, but I don't really keep it in mind when I am gardening. I know lots of people are really into it and swear by it, which is awesome. Just not my jam. I'm not a super, I guess what I would say, a technical gardener. I follow some of the basic rules for it, of course, but mostly I just go by feel and by what works. I am so excited to get outside and do some outside work. Dan and I have several outdoor projects we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. And I'll show you when we get outside what we're going to be up to. But this is the first time this year that we have really done any projects outside because it's been cold, of course, it's been winter, so much snow. Dan was just looking at the weather forecast and it's supposed to hit 18 degrees Celsius, which means we are going to have a massive melt off this coming up week, which is very exciting. I wanted to do red acre cabbage too. So in this one, I have the mammoth ones, the mammoth red rock cabbages. And I also have the little ones, the Tierra F1 ones, so the mini ones in this one. But I also want red acre cabbage as well. And I don't know why, but I can also not find my Copenhagen market cabbage, which is my go-to cabbage for cabbage. So I'm gonna have to find that. Definitely gonna have to make some more soil blocks. But we do have 10 trays of soil blocks all planted, so that feels good. I'm gonna need to make actually probably 2 or 3 more trays because I have the flowers that we didn't get to plant. And then also I'm gonna be doing successive planting for lettuces and some for cabbages as well. So I'm gonna need to make, probably maybe even 10 more trays total before we're done. I don't use soil blocks for doing things like zucchini or squash or anything like that because they just grow way too fast. But I do use them for just about everything else. Okay, so before we go outside, we're just gonna put together our yogurt now that our yogurt is cooled down enough. You don't wanna add your starter to hot milk because it will kill all of those friendly bacteria that you want. So to start this, I'm going to be using this grass-fed yogurt. We got this from the dairy that we bought our dairy cows from. It's called Grassroot Dairies down in Salmon Arm. Fabulous place, fabulous people. And I use around a quarter cup or so of yogurt for a gallon of, where did I put that lid? For a gallon of milk. And then I whisk that really well so that all that bacteria can be dispersed throughout my milk. And then I pour this milk into some clean quart jars. You can also buy prepared starters from any, like a cheese supply store or ingredients for making cheese, like Glengarry cheese or New England cheese making company, they all sell it. You can also use your own yogurt to start to culture your yogurt. Usually after, I don't even know how many times, but I just noticed that it tends to weaken and then I need to get a fresh one going after a certain period of time. But we accidentally used all of the yogurt that I made yesterday and didn't save any for starting. So there we go. Some beautiful, what will soon be yogurt. So we're going to put the lids on. I use my dehydrator set at around between 105 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit for my yogurt. And I have an Excalibur dehydrator for doing this. So we'll go put this downstairs and then I'm gonna go get changed into some work clothes and we'll head outside and I'll show you what we're doing out there. So the plan for today is we are going to go build a new shelf in my little greenhouse. I'm gonna take you down there now and show you what I mean. And if you were interested in seeing this little greenhouse from the point at which we built it throughout the years, I'll see if I can put a little playlist together for you, because the building of this greenhouse was actually the first video that we ever put up on our YouTube channel. Super special to me because it was the first kind of new infrastructure that we put on our property when we bought it. So as you can see, we still have lots and lots of snow, but I do see some soil there, so that's encouraging. Okay, so this is my little greenhouse. When we originally built it, we built it with the intention of growing in it, which we did for the first couple of years. But once I got my high tunnel, which I have outside, it says, I think it's 21 by 60 foot high tunnel. I didn't need this space any longer for growing, but what I did need it for was for starting seeds and for my seedling nursery. So we ended up turning this into my seed starting nursery and a place for the seedlings from my grow room in the house to come out to. Obviously, it's still getting too cold at night to have them out here without any supplementary heat. And even if we put a heater out here without any extra protection, the plants would still freeze. So what we do is we put plastic, so greenhouse plastic, across the top of this, and then we hang them down the sides so that the plants are on the inside of it. We do this all the way around, and then we put the heater in under that, and that has worked really well for me for a long time. But as you can see, we don't have a shelf along this side. So we're going to build a shelf along this side today so that it is very easy to have the plastic hanging down. What I usually do is I'll screw it up with one of these boards up against the wall here. But the challenge of that is as the plants on this side of the shelf start to grow and get tall, the plastic actually pushes down on them when it's hanging down here. So this completely eliminated that issue at all. And I also need the extra space to put seedlings as this fills up. So the extra shelf will come in really handy for that as well. I can hear Dan running some equipment outside. So let's go see what he's doing and grab him because he is going to help with this project. Oh, check it out. This is where my garlic is planted here. And the snow is coming off of this bed. That is very exciting. The garlic is usually one of the first things to poke its head out of the ground in the spring. So now I remember what Dan was doing. He was going to go clear the area where fireweed was of all of the bedding. So fireweed passed away. For those of you that have missed that, I'll link the video for you just for some more explanation about it. But she potentially had an infection, and we don't want anything that she potentially had to infect our new cow. So we're going and scraping the ground completely clear where she was and then letting it dry out. We'll put new bedding down before we put the new cows in there. But yes, I can see he has equipment. He's also moving all the snow. The side of the barn is the northwest side, so the snow stays there longer than it stays almost anywhere else. And he's clearing that all out too so that they have a bigger area to walk around in. So this project turned out to be a little bit more intense than we initially anticipated. This is just frozen rock solid all the way along there. So at least by breaking it up like this, it'll melt faster. I have more of this purple paint, I think, around somewhere. I kind of regret painting it purple. It doesn't look bad, but I kind of wish I just stuck with the green on the walls, but now it would just be too much work to go and repaint it all. Is that where you want it?
No, we put two of them like that.
Oh. Oh dear. Yeah, that will really help with the plastic.
As long as you hammer it in there. If you put that one there.
Put that one there, and then that one there. Perfect. Perfect.
If I had a hammer, it'd be perfect.
Progress. Okay, so I got the soup. The pea part of the soup is all done. It's super, super thick, so I decided to cook the potatoes separately and just add those once they're cooked. The flavor is awesome. I am going to add some lemon juice because I love the flavor of lemon juice with split pea soup. And then I think I might do baking powder biscuits with them instead of bread, but I haven't decided that yet. Okay, we are going to head back up to the house, you and I. Dan is going to stay here and finish up with that. Before we sign off for lunch, I just want to show you something in the grow room. It's very exciting. My hope was to get tomatoes in March, and had I eaten this tomato when it was ripe, it would have been at the very end of March, but I wanted to show you guys. So look at this. We have ripe tomatoes there. We have a ripe tomato there. Another one under here. And more all the way along. And it only seemed right, since you guys were with me when we planted these, that you would be with me when we pick them. And up here we have tomato seedlings, onions that need a haircut, peppers growing nicely, snapdragons looking amazing. I really need to raise these lights. I still have not done that. Little baby chamomile over here, marigolds, basil babies, Shasta daisies, lavender. I really need to put this into some new soil. This was in that soil that I had that wasn't good, and they need to go into some proper soil ASAP. But everything's looking pretty good. I just can't wait to get everything outside because they're just going to be so much happier. So now we're going to go have some lunch and quiet time, and we'll be back with you guys again soon. We had a lovely lunch break and quiet time. I had a nap and I'm feeling much refreshed. So here's the tomatoes from the grow room. And as you can see over here, I have the larger tomato plants. These are not micro dwarfs, these are dwarf tomatoes. And as you can see, we have some good size tomatoes on these. I do have one micro dwarf over here that I just realized had a ripe tomato that we can add to our collection. I'm glad that I did this. It was a fun experiment, but I probably won't do it again just because the amount of tomatoes that we're actually going to get off of the number of plants we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, I think, altogether of these plants, which takes up a lot of space. Grow lights having to run all the time and all of that, but it was definitely fun. So let's give a tomato a try here. We'll try one of these little orange ones. They're not quite as strongly flavored as tomatoes that are grown outside in the summertime, but not bad. And they definitely have that fresh tomato flavor that is so far superior to anything that you can get at a grocery store. So good. Oh man, it's making me miss summer. I'm going to save the rest of these for my kids when they get home. Oh, yum. I know split pea soup does not look very appetizing, but it tastes so incredibly delicious. So there's the chunks of carrots in there, chunks of potato in there. So I just pre-cooked the potatoes and then added them into the soup because it was already so thick and they wouldn't have cooked. And I've left this big chunk of bacon in here, and I'll take that out in a little bit and chop it up into little pieces and then add it back in to the soup. If you ever have an opportunity to get a mixing bowl, like an earthenware mixing bowl like this, definitely do. I just noticed that mine is not clean. Oh my gosh. Anyways, definitely do get one. There is something so wonderful about cooking or baking with one of these bowls. We're going to grab our flour, baking powder, baking soda, butter, and I'm going to run downstairs and grab some lard and also check to see if I have the lemon juice. I wanted to give you an update on the cookbooks. I have to admit, I kind of wish that I had waited until I was further along in the process before sharing with you guys, because it has been just about 4 months since I first mentioned it, and we are still a few weeks away from, or maybe even 3 weeks away from before you'll actually be able to order them. It was a much bigger project than I was anticipating. I have learned so much through the process of doing it, and I'm grateful for all of that learning. So what I've done to make this as widely available as possible is we are going to do an ebook version so that you can just buy that straight off my website and then get it printed wherever you want, and they'll just print out like this, as you can see here. And there will be the option to have all of the recipes in one cookbook, or you can buy them separately. So we have dinners and lunches here, and a dessert cookbook here, and then there's going to be a freebie that goes in with both of those. So if you buy just the dessert one, you'll also get the breakfast one and then the same thing with the dinner and the lunch and dinner one, you'll also get the breakfast one. This way, if you don't want to have the desserts, then you don't have to have them, vice versa. If you just want the desserts, you can just have the desserts. But we will also make one available that has all of the cookbooks together in one, and the hardcover version, which will be available as well, it will just be one cookbook with all of the cookbooks together. So I'm very excited about that. I won't talk about it again until it is actually available on my website, but I cannot wait till it is. It has been a definite labor of love. And honestly, my kids have been using these cookbooks all the time. Instead of having to ask me how to make all of our family recipes, they can just grab one of the cookbooks and use it, and it's fantastic. It's been so fun. So we'll start with measuring out our flour, and I'm going to double this recipe. And 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And I have shared a lot of the recipes that you'll find in my cookbook on my website, which I know probably isn't the best business move ever, but I figure if you want all of the recipes in one spot, then you can buy the cookbook, or if you just want to support the channel, it's a great way to support us. And it's been really fun too, because I've done this project with my mom. A lot of these recipes are recipes that she passed down to me, her mom passed down to her, and so on, and also with my aunt as well. So it's been really fun from that perspective. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. These are those measuring spoons that I bought at Costco the other day. They're such good quality. They're super solid. Probably have those for the rest of my life. And 2 teaspoons of salt. I don't know what it is about cooking with an earthenware bowl like this. It just feels different somehow. Okay, we need 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. And in order to make buttermilk, if you do not have buttermilk, you just add a little bit of vinegar to your milk or lemon juice. So how much did I say I needed? 1.5 cups. And a good, good tablespoon of vinegar. We did put lots of these little tips and tricks in to the cookbook as well, like different substitutions for different things. 1/2 cup of butter. Oh darn it, I forgot I was gonna do some lard in with the butter. Oh well. So I'm gonna add a little bit of grated cheese into these, not too much. Mix that in, and then we'll add our milk. You can see, I don't know if you can see that, but the milk is kind of chunky. That's what you're going for. Dan was just texting me from Canadian Tire saying, are you sure you only need 1 quart of that? Because it's only $15 more for a gallon. And I said, nope, I'm not sure. So he said he'll just get the gallon, and I'll paint something else purple too, I guess. And I should have had my oven preheating here to 450. Nice hot oven for biscuits. I'm not sure if I'm going to put the greenhouse finished in this video, or if I will wait for the next one, because I'm going to have to wait until tomorrow morning to paint it, as Dan won't be back until later and it'll start getting really cold out there. So yeah, I'll probably put that in the next video, and then we can actually bring all the plants out together and I can talk you through a little bit about what I do to keep everything safe, or show you. Okay, here we are. So we have the shelf going all the way across. He has the cross members on that will support this hardware cloth. Is it called hardware cloth? Anyway, this stuff. But once I get the paint here, I'll paint it and then we'll roll that on. So by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'll have this done. I got the plastic down from the shop. So what we're gonna do with this is staple it across the top of this to the very back, all the way around the whole entire thing. And it will hang down all the way to the ground down here. And during the day, I'll roll it up and put it on the top of the shelf. And then at night, I will close it and plug in my heaters. I have 2 of these, one that goes on each side. So this one will come and go underneath here, and then one under here. And that works perfectly well to keep it above freezing. The only sort of scary part about all of it is that there are extension cords that are run up to the shop here, and that's where they plug in. So we make sure that we plug them in on different fuses in the shop. So that way, in case one trips, we still have heat in here and I don't end up losing all of my seedlings, because that would be awful. It's kind of my biggest fear, is that I'm going to come out one morning and they're all going to be dead. So, but it is a risk I have to take, because I just simply don't have the space in my house for this many plants. Because like I said earlier, this greenhouse will be completely full, both shelves all the way around. And oftentimes I even have the bottom full too by the time it comes to actually planting out. Biscuits are just about done. So I'm gonna get myself a little bowl of soup here. This is definitely more of a stew than a soup. And I just realized that I did not cut up the bacon that's in there. I'm just gonna cut up all this meat here, remove the fat, and then pop that back into the soup. So we have our fluffy biscuit. There's always one biscuit that's the misshapen one. One of my favorite ways to eat any type of savory soup is with some jam on a biscuit with a little bit of the soup with it. And if you haven't tried it, you definitely should. It's so good. That's so good. Delicious. The wonderful thing about this soup is it is super cheap. It's mostly split peas. I think for this batch, which is that huge pot, just about full, or I guess about 3/4 of the way full. I think I used 10 carrots, 10 potatoes, and then 6 or 8 cups, I can't remember, of the split peas. And if you don't have chicken stock, you can just use water and bouillon. That would work just as well. Super filling and delicious. I hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time on what day? Friday. We'll see you Friday. Bye.